Hi everyone, this is Lisa Haven and I've got some important information to cover with you today. And that is this: top secret document or documents expose sickening move by Big Brother. They want to literally, and I mean literally, control humanity via force compliance. Now, just a forewarning, this information delves into everything about humanity and exactly how to control them. So just a heads up, but I think the best thing to do is to dive right in. All right, so here is the first document, and I will leave a link to this, but it's called Human Performance, and I believe the name says it all. That is exactly what this document's on. It monitors humanity, how humanity reacts, how they respond. Definitely a government-backed document. But here's what they do. They delve into how does sleep affect humanity, sleep deprivation, and just sleep in general. The second thing that they talk about is how drugs or psychotropic drugs or supplements can affect the human brain and humanity in general. And third, and most shockingly, is brain-computer interface, where they literally tango on both this document and another that I'm going to show you with the idea of putting and implanting brain chips in humanity. So this particular document was released in 2008, and it says the entire purpose of this study is to evaluate the potential for adversaries to exploit advances in human performance modification, how to modify humans, and thus create a threat to national security. In making this assessment, we were asked to evaluate long-term scenarios. We have thus considered the present state of the art in pharmaceutical intervention, in cognitive and in brain-computer interfaces, and considered how possible future developments might proceed and be used by adversaries. So, in other words, their entire purpose for doing this report is the potential for adversaries, those against our government, those in opposition, how they could use human performance. When might I suggest that it's also obviously for use of things like in our government as well. I don't think it's just specifically because adversaries study it, but I think it's also because they want to know. I think we can all make that argument. Now, here's just a quick rundown of everything, and it even talks about, the animals versus the humans and how they react. Here's some of the analysis of sleep deprivation. Now, I'm not going to get into everything, but some of it I think is worthy of delving into, and brain plasticity is one of them. And plasticity basically means how to manipulate and mold the brain in order to get it what you want it to do. And this is exactly what they're studying. And it's not just on military, and I mean, they shouldn't be doing that. Let's just get people to think one way or another. But this is also on the human populace, civilians. And this was put out in 2008, mind you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So let's read the executive summary here. The fields of neuroscience, psychopharmacology, and cognition are in rapid flux because new scientific tools have provided the capability to develop fundamental understanding of linkages among brain activity, electrical and chemical stimulation, and human behavior. Now, obviously, that psychopharmacology is specifically your... So let's brief over the executive summary of this document, and it says the fields of neuroscience, psychopharmacology, that's your psychotropics, and cognition are in rapid flux because new scientific tools have provided the capability to develop fundamental understanding of linkages among brain activity, electrical and chemical stimulation, that's a big one there, and human behavior in general. Applications to human performance modification are being driven primarily by medical needs, e.g. cognitive repair. And there are significant new technological developments in this area. As a result, there is popular excitement about, and thus, commercial markets for possible applications in cognitive enhancement, how to enhance the brain, how to enhance our thinking. This area is certain to be investigated extensively over the next decade, and they have. Here we are, 2008, 7 years later in 2015. Awareness of developments in cognitive performance enhancement include cultural differences in adoption will be important because these may affect the behavior and effectiveness of opposing military forces in both symmetric and asymmetric warfare. The findings and recommendation of our study fall under 3 categories: evaluation of military effectiveness, brain plasticity, molding of the brain, and brain-computer interface. Now, I want to focus on that one as well because in this document and another report, they entertain the idea of brain chips, and we know that this is something they are already doing. Now, scrolling down a bit to page 3 of this document, here's where it talks a little bit about brain plasticity. And it states, increasing scientific understandings of the mechanisms of brain plasticity has led to the development of training regimens for permanently establishing new neural pathways, permanently changing the brain, and thus new cognitive capabilities. Adversaries could use such scientifically designed training regimes to increase troop effectiveness or modify troop behavior and or emotional response. In other words, they can use certain drugs, certain things to do this, or establishing new pathways. But keep in mind, this isn't just adversaries. They're studying this domestically for here in America as well. New types of neuropharmaceuticals are being developed that more directly target synaptic firing and thus impact brain plasticity far more effectively than existing drugs. So they're talking about synaptic firing. And that is, synaptic firing is tiny gaps across which a nerve cell or a neuron can send an impulse to another neuron, kind of electrifying the brain to act, so to speak. Now, it goes on to state, when it's approved for use, and it might be already, I'm not sure, these drugs will certainly have extensive off-label use for improvement of memory and cognitive performance. These drugs may have the additional effect of weakening or overriding existing memories. In other words, there are some downsides. Depending on the ultimate performance of these drugs, adversaries could use them in training processes or in field operations. All right, so there is one idea of what they found specifically in regards to manipulating the brain, molding the brain. Let's scroll down to brain-computer interface. Now here they entertain the idea of what implants have, how they have helped, or whether they're not implanted and connected to a computer. But here they say direct implants in the brain most often involve undifferentiated stimulation of locality in the brain, rather than individual contacts to neurons or synapses. And for humans have been limited to in-transit medical conditions. The demonstrated level of behavior control in animal studies has involved simple stimuli that either simulate known sensory physical signals for specific actions or provide a rewarding impulse. At present, the primary threat potential for adversarial use of brain-computer interface may arise in feedback mode, in which the interface provides a soldier with a simple signal or a plain pleasure pulse to respond to externally provided situational information. Longer-term adversarial developments may include prosthetic applications providing specialized sensory input or mechanical input. So scrolling on just a little bit, obviously they just entertained the idea of putting chips into our soldiers, and they're already doing it. Keep in mind, this was put out in 2008. It's already being done, and I'm going to show you another report that's even before this one. But here's some of the things that they brief. Building better humans. Interesting. Let's upgrade humanity via brain chips, via force compliance. Possibilities for human performance modification. A little bit down, brain plasticity. Defense applications for emerging neuroscience and nutritional technologies. And I skipped this one, investigation into the strategic effects of emerging technologies with a focus on human performance modification, how to modify the performance of humans. Associative learning in humans exposed to acute uncontrollable stress, delayed type I blink conditioning before and after survival school, sleep deprivation, cognitive performance, human performance modification, short and long-term adaptation to stress, methods to enhance human performance. So you can see very blatantly, this entire document forces on humanity and how to control it, how to manipulate it, how to modify it. Okay, so I've scrolled down to about page 39 of this document, and this gets a little bit more into brain plasticity. And it says the entire concept of human performance modification is undergoing major changes as a result of advances in understanding how the brain works. Most important of this area is brain plasticity. That is, the psychological changes in the brain that result from learning and adaptation. Scientific understanding of how these changes occur is paralleled with understanding the methods, including both training and pharmacological intervention, of how these can be induced. At present, there is clear evidence that inventions based on brain plasticity can repair defects resulting from all of these things, including environmental stress, trauma, psychiatric problems, diseases, degeneration. There is also great interest in the possibility of enhancing normal human function, how to make humanity better by messing with the brain. Now I'm going to scroll down. This is under the same topic, but it's page 55, I believe. No, 52. And this is where under that banner, they talk about pharmaceutical enhancement. This is your psychotropic drugs and how they can use such psychotropic drugs. Specifically, they're talking about one here, the ADHD one, and how they can help change or manipulate the brain. All right, scrolling down yet again to page 63, and this is your brain-computer interface. And I'm going to start here where they talk about two classes of physical interventions, non-invasive and invasive interferences to the neural system. Now, non-invasive interfaces involve external electromagnetic stimulation of neural response or external censoring of the electromagnetic signatures of neural activity. In non-invasive interfaces, the interactions with the neural network are non-specific and thus limited in controlled effect. Invasive interfaces involve direct surgical connections to the nervous system to allowing sensing of neural signals, input sensory stimuli, or to regulate neural activity. So in other words, that invasive interface, it is a direct communication pathway between your brain and some kind of external device, and they have to do it surgically, some kind of surgical implant, brain microchip, so to speak. Now, scrolling down a little bit, here they talk about non-invasive. You guys can come back to read the document there. But here's just an image of non-invasive, how they can do it, via helmet and whatnot. And I believe that one does not require surgery. And here's invasive brain-computer interface. Now, here is where they actually put it into the brain here, and I think the images say it all. Now, scrolling down just a bit, and you guys can pause that and read it, but they actually admit here on this page that there is some downside to that, and let me read it for you. And it states here, although the present technical capabilities are not impressive, one can consider the potential that an adversary might use invasive interfaces in military applications. An extreme example, that's your brain trips, but an example would be remote guidance or control of a human being. So in a sense, they say this is the bad side, this is what it could do, and then it goes on to explain, what they've experienced and when they did this with animals and whatnot. But here they admit that brain chips, can control a human being, 100% force compliance, so to speak. Now I want to take you over to another document, and that's this one. Let me go to the first page here. And this is Information Operations, a new war-fighting capability. Now, this particular document, and I'll leave a link to this one as well, they're wanting it implemented by 2025. That's only 10 years away, almost 9 years away, because we're almost in 2016. But this was put out in August 1996. The one that you just saw, I think, is baby to this one, so to speak, because this is the original document of where they want to be in 2025. Now, one of the goals in this entire document is that they specifically state they want to microchip people's brains. And that's the only section I'm going to focus on this document. But let me show you. Here we go. And here is where they show implantable microscopic chip. Now we're going to scroll to page 35 here because it's got some, I think, very imperative information on that. And the thing that we need to understand is they've already begun this. They've already started it. Many in our military have been guinea pigs, so to speak, for this, or some have. Okay, so here's that last section that I just want to focus on. The implanted microscopic chip or brain chip performs two functions. First, it links the individual to an IIC, creating a seamless interface between the user and the information resource, in-time collection data, and archival databases. In essence, the chip relays the process information from the IIC to the user. Second, it creates a computer-generated mental visualization based on the user's request. The visualization encompasses the individual and allows the user to place himself into the selected battle space. It's kind of like your virtual reality, and they're going to admit that on page 24, which I'll take you to in a moment. It goes on to say here why the implanted microscopic chip. Well, other methods, such as specifically configured rooms, helmets, sunglasses, may be used to interface the user with the ICC. The microchip is the most viable. Two real operational concerns support the use of implanted chips and argue against larger physical entities to access the cyber station. First, future operations will demand a highly flexible and mobile force that is ready on a moment's notice to employ aerospace power. The chip will give these forces the ability to communicate, visualize, and prosecute military operations. Having to manage and deploy a physical platform or room hampers mobility and delays time-sensitive operations. In other words, helmets and things like that they don't want to use. The implant is better. U.S. aerospace forces must be prepared to fight or conduct mobility or special operations anywhere in the world and on extremely short notice, although some of these operations may be staged directly from the United States. It goes on to state, while this is a reasonable portability rationale for the use of chip, some may wonder, which why I do, why not use special sunglasses or helmets? Well, the answer is simple, and I want you to focus on this. An implantable microscopic chip does not require security measures. It doesn't require security measures. Do you notice the boldness of that statement? To verify whether the right person is connected to the IIC, whereas a room, helmet, or sunglasses require additional time-consuming access control mechanisms to verify an individual's identity and level of control within the cyber situation. Crazy stuff. Now it goes on down here on the next page to state, the civilian population will likely accept an implanted microscopic chips that allow military members to defend vital national interest. It says the population would be open to this idea. And the sad truth is, there's so many people asleep in today's day and age that this could be something they very well vouch for, and they very well say, yeah, okay. But the cause that was openly admitted in the other document that I read specifically stated that they could be controlled with these chips. So why even entertain an idea that takes away the very control of our bodies is beyond me. But they are very open here that civilian population can accept this. Now, let me go back up to page 24, and I want to show you one more thing on here. Nope, that's page 25. And it says about this brain interface, it says the capability will have extraordinary commercial applications for medical advances. These advances will help restore patients with damaged neural, audio, and visual systems, as well as enable individuals to achieve the ultimate virtual reality trip. In other words, these brain trips will put you in a virtual reality. Not my words. These are coming from quote unquote Big Brother, so to speak. But I wanted to bring you guys all this information because I think it's important to know. Now, one last thing I want to show is on fusion.net, and it's DARPA is testing implantable chips in soldiers' brain. Notice the date on this, and there's a bunch of news reports on this, but this is already happening. This is why it's important for you to know what's going on. Look, they started this back early 2008 and 1996. This has been a goal since day one. And here we are at brain neural interfaces, medical implants of brain chips. Definitely happening. Anyhow, wanted to bring you the latest on all of that and, give you a heads up because we know the mark of the beast is on its way. And that likely could be some kind of implant, excuse me. This is Lisa Haven signing off.